Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Wisdom. I'm Thomas Le Hoang, and you're listening to the TL podcast, where knowledge is shared and no one takes themselves too seriously.
Yeah, Larry.
So we tell people to go and read Legacy. It's one of the best books on leadership you've ever read. One of the All Blacks' most important policies is the know what policy, Thomas.
Stop me in the
Hey?
Stop me in the gut.
No, the know
Stuff
what
me in the
policy. The know what? No.
What is it, Cam? Remind us.
And
No
all
bullying.
of a sudden we're a podcast about leadership and we can't say it.
No bullying.
Unbelievable.
Oh gosh. Yes.
Disappointment.
Anyway, guys, if you're just tuning in, Cam has a bit of an issue with a few words we've had to drop out of our vocabulary.
Cam has an issue every week. You don't have to worry.
Yeah. Oh
And Cam's
well.
gonna have another issue when the jersey that he's wearing gonna lose this weekend. I mean, Cam's got an issue every day.
Louise are going to get up this Sunday. Louise
I
will
never
get up.
thought Wine and Wisdom would be about censorship, TL. I never thought I'd see the day, mate. 400 odd episodes, and we're worried about offending people with
It is
everyday
censorship.
words,
It's not about
So how many
censorship.
we've done? 400 episodes.
at least.
Bloody hell.
Anyway, how you guys
Me.
going? All right?
Awesome.
Yes. Very, very good. Very good.
A bit flat today, Lou. What's going on? Had a hard day?
No, it's been a good day actually. I always love this time of the quarter because it's amazing. You know, we've got 8 days left of the quarter, and our people go to work all quarter, but it's just something about that last week. You know, they dig deep. We've got MRI. I was going to say MRIs, then I've got too much medical stuff on my brain. MRs happening left, MRs happening left, right, and center. Sales are getting put away, and and the thing is, you guys know, MRs haven't been something to worry about for the last 2 years. You sort of, what are they? But we've been doing some intense training on it, and people are taking it all on board. And the best thing is, every property that's had an MR has gone under contract. So proof's in the pudding. But so it's good. I love seeing the team dig deep for their own good and that of the others. So yeah, it's good.
I saw someone jump on last week, Lou, when we were talking about the market coming back from up your way, not quite up as far as your way, but they were adamant that prices hadn't changed on the mid-north coast and north coast. And
I think if anything, Cam, the only thing that's changed is days on market. Instead of property selling in 24 hours. No, well, I haven't finished because it's quite normal now for a property to take 6 weeks to sell. I wouldn't say that prices haven't come back at all. I could say that prices have, the competition is out of the market, the fierce competition is out of the market, and properties are selling within the price range or whatever, but they're not selling over the price range. But, if a property has been on the market for 6 weeks, then those are the ones that are getting market reviewed.
so prices have dropped.
Well, I suppose in a nutshell, yeah, I would say.
What's an
nothing
MR?
like
Lou? To the people listening at home, what's an MR?
a market review.
What does that mean?
Come on, Cam. We're
you-
not in a classroom. We're not doing
Market
it.
reviews when we adjust someone's price. Do we adjust it lower or higher, Lou, generally?
I don't. Why are you talking like
skirting.
Cam, it's not a test.
All right. She won't answer the question. Why won't you answer the question?
Just say it.
You get on
Because
here.
you're
and
going long ass around it.
You get on here and go MR, and everything that's MR is sold. For the people listening at home, an MR is where someone reduces their price to meet the market so they can get a sale done. 1 + 1 = 2 means yes, prices have dropped. Why are we sitting there going, no, prices have dropped?
Yeah, but you
No,
see, it is human nature to want more for my house.
Understand people wanting more. for
So
their house.
sellers will fight with a passion and will resist adjusting their asking price. It's normal.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
because agents are going, prices haven't dropped. It's just time on market that's changed. Maybe.
And what happened this week in New South Wales with the stamp duty? There's going to be sellers saying, hold on, that surely will have to strengthen the selling price.
First home buyers aren't in trouble. The price of houses that first home buyers are buying aren't the houses that are in trouble. That's the stamp duty comes into effect for first home buyers. So,
Yeah.
bloody good thing though, when it
Let's move on.
land tax $400, land tax $400 a year. Yeah, good. Plus
That will save a lot of people $40,000 to $50,000 in stamp duty.
plus 0.3% of the land value, they were saying. So, I mean, I just paid $59,000 in stamp duty. How long? At $400 a year. Do some maths for me. How many years is that?
120
A lot of
years.
years.
It's a lot of years. Enough for an air conditioner. Enough for an air conditioner.
Or some bloody gas heating if you can get the gas at the moment. Jesus.
Plenty of gas and carry on, mate. We're going to direct line to Russia. Vlad.
You can't get
Mate.
gas, or what's going on?
Oh, just the gas supplies, because in my area there's no street gas, so I've got to go for the 45-gallon bottles. It
Yep.
was a three-week wait from when I ordered it. If I knew that, I would have ordered 3 weeks earlier. But
Yeah.
yeah, three-week wait.
No
So
more barbecue.
that's my own stupid fault for waiting until both bottles were empty instead of ordering one when one was empty. So
No more
anyway.
barbecue, Chris. How are you going to cook your wine?
I've finally got my gas now. Only when the weather got real. Cook my wine, you smartass. I was going to use another word, but I'm going to revert to smartass. All right.
Oh, no, that'll be banned next week, Chris. Banned. I don't want my kids running around saying
You
smart
moron, Wilson. You're a moron.
ass. I don't want my kids running around saying smart ass, so that's banned next week. All right.
So what's another piece of news this week?
$25 million for a flag on the Harbour Bridge. $25 million for a flag on the Harbour Bridge. What are we doing? Yeah, how much gas you can put in Chris's house for $25 million?
What's that about? I haven't heard that.
Putting that, and I think it's a great thing. They're putting the Aboriginal flag on the Harbour Bridge next to the Australian flag and the New South Wales flag. But $25 million in 2 years to do it. And Perrottet is trying to be an Aussie bloke, and he said, mate, I'll drive down to Bunnings and buy a flagpole and put it up myself. He won't. But $25 million.
Yeah, it's
We're in the
ridiculous.
middle of, we're going to have probably one of the coldest winters that we've had in a long, long time. How many people are living on the streets? We've just come through COVID. How many people are struggling with mental health? We're
Well,
going
look,
to
it
spend
costs you,
$25 million on a flag.
at the moment, it costs you $25 million to buy an iceberg lettuce and fill your tank up. I mean, so
That's a trip to the local shop and back. In the car, $25 million. I think that's the stuff.
But what are they saying the $25 million is for? Like, what is the $25 million
to
for?
build the
'Cause
flag, to get the flagpole on the bridge and stick a flag on it. It's got to be a special flagpole. It's 20 metres high, which is the same height as a 6-story building. And it's obviously got to be strong enough to withstand all types of weather conditions. $25 million for a pole with a cloth on it.
you can build a 6-story building with that.
Hey?
Oh, gee.
You can build a 6-story
Yeah.
building. For
Let's go to something a little bit more positive. So Cam, you really think what's your forecast for the State of Origin second game on Sunday?
My real forecast, or the one I've got to say in public because I'm wearing the jersey?
No,
I think we get beat again.
No.
Yeah, I said it last week about the aura that Queensland have when they get it right. And there's people who don't know what they're talking about are saying, oh, it's in Perth and it's going to be a much harder track. And a hard track in footy is good for fast people. What they don't realise is that Queensland's got most of the fastest players in the competition on their side. So they have brought back in Jake Trebojevic, New South Wales, who I pointed to last week as one of the main culture leaders for the state. They still left out Josh Addo-Carr, which beggars belief because he scored 4 tries last week and 2 the week before. I think we're playing too much.
Fast.
We're playing too much catch up now. They talk about, they're trying to say we played too nice. We always play nicer than Queensland. Queensland are grubs, but are we allowed to say grub? Sorry, I just wanted to check.
You can't say anything beside the F word or anything that we wouldn't want our kids to tell other people.
Nothing to do with appendages on foreheads. So yeah, I'd look.
But you can.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be right.
To say yours dinner. So
I don't want to be right.
Well.
I don't want to be right, but I love being right at the same time. I don't want to be sitting there at the game going, "Oh well, I tipped Queensland, so it's okay." But I think Queensland win. If you're going to have an intelligent conversation, you got to take your heart out of it, right? So
wouldn't the leadership in New South Wales like know better than you and go, hold on, we should really do these kind of things to win? I mean, how come a guy like you who knows nothing about footy give better prediction than these guys who are professional coaches and surrounds the team?
Last game, I picked the winner. I picked the man of the match. I picked the first try scorer. If I was a gambling man, I'd be able to quit work, but my gambling account's closed.
You gambled on cryptos and it didn't work.
Yeah, Bitcoin. I wish I knew as much about bloody Bitcoin as I do about footy. I'd be a richer man. No, yeah, I don't. Sometimes, and we do this at work, right? You mess with a good thing, right? If sometimes we try and fix something that's not broken, and when Brad Fittler came into New South Wales, we hadn't won in a long time, or we'd won one but then lost again. He had to change the formula, he had to change the culture, he had to change all these things, and he did it, and we started winning. And it coincided with Queensland losing. Billy Slater, Greg Inglis, Cameron Smith, all the greats of the game left Queensland at the same time. So big coincidence there. But we won last year easily. We won the year before. 21. No, we lost 2020. We won last year easily, but we won a couple of years before that. And then this year they're like, oh, to hell with what's been working. We'll try something different just for the sake of it, and it backfired. And the fact that they've changed 7 players, right? So New South Wales have changed 7 players. They were so adamant that they picked the right team in game 1. We definitely got it right. You all don't know what you're talking about. Blah 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 blah. We lost by 6 points. Now we've swapped 7 players. Is an admission of guilt. That's an admission they got it wrong. But I think mentality-wise for the players and for the state, I mean, even me sitting here talking about it, I think we're too far behind. I think they already beat us in between the ears. They've beat us in between the ears, and that's too much to come back with. They say we only lost by 6 points. Yes, I said I didn't remember the game. I was at the game. We were never close. And then we scored a lucky try towards the end, and it made it a lot closer than it was. But anyway, I don't know why I know more than them, TL. I'm just one of those lucky guys.
No, I'm just asking. All right, let's get on to our wine. Chris, what's a wine? What's your wine?
I've got a wine. It's called La Boheme, and it's from the area.
La Boheme, French name.
Yes, and it's got a nice picture on it.
Nice.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Good question. It's French for no.
I wish we put as much effort into our wines as we do in picking words we're going to ban for the week.
Yeah, it's from Yarra Valley. Well, they've got Syrah and Gamay grape, which is a Shiraz and another variety of grapes.
That is possibly the worst wine review. Possibly the worst wine review ever given by any human ever. Well done, buddy.
I'll go second with my wife this week because I can't wait. I've got the Xanadu, Margaret River. And just to be different this week, I thought, you know what? Let's do a bit of research about Margaret River. And I didn't know that Margaret River is a wine region that is actually surrounded by the ocean on 3 sides. And so in the 50s, where it used to be a cow country, they actually started to turn it into wine region because the climate is very close to the climate in the south of France. And hence, they say that they've got a few good grapes, but all of my drinking from Margaret River, there's only 2 wines that I said that I would drink from them. It is Chardonnay or Cab Sauv. And today I've got a 2018 Cab Sauv.
Also the home of one of the events on the World Surf Tour, Margaret River, the Margaret River Pro, because at the opening to the river, they're quite good swell.
Well, I'll open it.
Yeah. Lou?
I have another Cassegrain wine, which is a Chardonnay Pinot Noir, which is the local vineyard that Used to be close by, but not anymore. Well, it's only 10 minutes away now. So, but can you see?
Did you just say
It was a
Chardonnay?
Chardonnay
Pinot Noir?
Pinot Noir.
Yeah, yeah. So,
It's a-
and it's got the NV written after it.
Shit,
So
right.
basically,
Is that a sparkling?
yeah.
We don't
So-
do sparkling on here. When are we doing sparkling on here?
It's a wine.
Although we're
It's a
making
wine.
we're making it that soft. We may as well just be drinking sparkling wine. That's we're going. So
Yeah. So
Well,
I mean,
you
look,
water
once
and
brought
wisdom next
a
week.
non-alcoholic wine.
We're water and
Right.
wisdom next week, so we don't upset anybody.
All right, what
But
about
anyway.
you, man?
I have gone with a different vintage of a wine that I've brought before, which is the
oh
Shortlist
my goodness.
Adelaide Hills Chardonnay from McGuigan. I've had the 2018 before. This is the 2019. And yeah, Adelaide
And you
Hills.
started drinking that before the
no.
podcast, because there's no way.
Yeah, we just
Oh,
opened
oh,
it.
it's a big glass. It's a big glass. All
I
right.
just opened it.
Cheers, guys.
Big guys. All right.
Cheers.
From
Cheers.
listen, I was saying before we even started this, when there's no competition, nobody really gives too much.
Oh, I thought I was going to go
So,
all right.
My wine won this week. Just want to let you know. My wine won last week. Just want to let you know. And my wine, I
I
think,
thought
won the week
Oh, I
before.
won the week before, so go away. Oh, I nearly said
And
piss.
I-
I'm scared to say piss off now.
Oh,
No, that you can
one.
say.
A woman drove me to drink. I never stopped to thank her. Cheers.
All right, Chris, what's the subject?
Subject this week: are bullies actually bullies, or is there something something a little bit deeper going on with them?
Mm.
Let's start with
Interesting.
Ken this week so that he doesn't wait for everyone to have a go first.
What are we starting with me for? Can we define? Should we start with defining what we think a bully is before we pick a side?
Well, not picking sides. We're
A
just having
bully, a
opinions.
bully, or bullying.
Well, bully or bullying, same thing. So
Mhm.
I've gone to the National Centre for Against Bullying, the National Centre Against Bullying. Bullying is an ongoing and deliberate misuse of power in relationships through repeated verbal, physical, and/or social behaviour that intends to cause physical, social, and/or psychological harm. It can involve an individual or a group misusing their power or perceived power over one or more persons who feel unable to stop it from happening. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
And bullying can happen in person or online is the last line of that definition.
Oh, so you guys got same definition. Okay, I got mine. It was very simple. It's someone who just gets his way using whatever means they can,
Well, that's wrong.
and causing harm onto the other person. That's bullying.
Getting your way and causing harm are two completely different things. We're salespeople, yeah. Our job is to get our way. We're not bullying
Getting their ways and in the long way harming others.
and harming people to get their own way.
Yeah.
Yes. Chris, you got anything different to that?
Not really, guys. Intentionally using the tools that they're
Just what are you, mate?
I've forgotten how to
I know
speak.
who's been
tonight,
drinking their
seriously.
wine before. I know
I've
who's
forgotten
been
how to-
drinking
I've
wine
had one
before
sip of
podcast.
wine. No, just people, using their power the wrong way. It's to get it over others, and it can be in many different forms.
Using their power.
Well, yeah, and the only other thing I had differently is a bully is somebody who isn't necessarily imposing something on you, but they're more so taking something from you, usually your attention, and feeding off your attention. So, because basically that's what they're doing for.
Jesus Christ! So anyone who takes your attention's a bully.
No, Cam. I'm just saying a bully isn't somebody that's necessarily imposing something on you because you have the option to walk away. But a bully is somebody who is feeding off your attention. What the reason why they're doing what they're doing is to take the attention off your attention.
Reaction.
So
your
we all
reaction
Yeah.
to how they.
are we all in agreement? A bully is someone who used their power.
In the
Yes.
wrong way.
Yeah.
Are we? Yeah. Okay.
Misuse of their
Misuse their
Misuse
power.
of power. Okay, so we are agreeing to that definition.
power. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we all agreeing that in doing what they're doing, they're causing harm to others.
Absolutely.
They're attempting to. Sometimes it doesn't work on their behalf, but I think that's
yeah, okay.
The misuse of power to cause harm to others is pretty much the definition of bullying, yeah?
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Now we can start the subject.
Right.
Is it?
We okay?
Thank God for that.
We
No,
all
but
right?
I think it's good that we start with that, because once we start with that, which is right from Cam for doing this, because once we have it now, we've got the parameter for the discussion. Otherwise, we can go left, right, center, and it'll take us like 60 hours, you know?
So the answer to the question is yes, bullies are bullies, and yes, there is something deeper going on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's not one or the other. A bully is doing what he's doing for a reason. A bully knows. We all, hands up here if we know right from wrong.
Yes.
Yes. So we know that
Of course.
bullying is wrong, and we know when we're misusing our power to cause harm to others. Thus, a bully is a bully. You can't say bully's not a bully because there's something deeper going on underneath. Bully is a bully, and usually, or you would think, unless they're completely sociopathic and narcissistic, there is something deeper going on down inside.
So
Yes.
are we saying that there's no such thing as a bully being something that's coming from a genetic kind of drive, or could someone be born bully without even?
Well, they say
No, I
sociopaths,
don't think
people who
born.
have absolutely that lack of empathy, people who have that total lack of empathy are sometimes bullies, and they don't realise it because they can't feel empathy. So on
Let's
that,
take complete psychopaths out of the question because it probably doesn't relate to most of us.
okay,
Yeah.
right.
But
I
interestingly enough,
don't think people are born a bully. It might only take
No, I don't-
months before they become one, but that's due to extenuating circumstances.
what I found in the research was psychology says that during our 3rd year of life, we learn how to communicate, negotiate, collaborate, and manipulate. And so those are our formative years, and that tends to be where people learn, you know, monkey see, monkey do. If they see their parents bully, if they see, you know, people in general bully, they start to mimic that behavior. And again, it's sometimes they also said that a lot of reasons why people do bully is it's usually been life circumstances or feeling unloved, very little affection, you know, certain other things, which I'm sure we're going to go into later. But interestingly, the 3rd year of life is where they say when we learn those communicate, collaborate, negotiate, and manipulate. Interesting.
Do we agree that they're both, but the two parts of the question are completely intertwined, or can you separate them? I believe they're completely intertwined.
Yeah, there's a cause. There's a root cause for why they're doing what they're doing. So they have to. There's cause and effect. Absolutely.
Just because there's a cause doesn't mean they're not a bully, because you know that you're bullying someone. Yeah.
No, it doesn't excuse
A bully,
what they're
do
doing.
we believe a bully is a bully?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Thomas.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So
Doesn't
do we
excuse-
believe there's something deeper going on downstairs?
Absolutely, 100%. And it's all
Yeah.
intertwined. Absolutely.
There you
There's no
go.
question.
We've cut out 40 minutes of fighting, mate. You should be having here. We can have an intellectual conversation.
I think that some people are born in their personality. They are bullied. They're bullied, and they that's how they are. Just like some people are born with no empathy. Some people are born very sensitive. I mean, yes, there's case where people become, but I think that you have to accept that too.
I disagree.
Yeah. I think I was just going to say, I think in general terms,
I did say some. I didn't say that's the rule.
yeah.
No.
I think in general terms, bullies are damaged people, and not every bully is the same. But I think bullies basically damage people who are living off the programming of their creative years, if you like. I really think that, because as you said,
I don't think that.
So if people were born bullied, that'd make it very hard to change. I consider myself here to have done a university degree and a bachelor of everything in bullying, because I copped so much of it during my life, and I can tell you that all of my worst bullies at school are now not bullies. Right? They've changed because they grew out of it. Whatever was making them do that, they've either come to realise it, or they realise that they're not so tough in the big wide world, one way or the other. But they're no longer. Are they still a bully on the inside then? If they're, and there was too many of them to say that not one of them was born that way. Right? The percentages are too high. I hate to think that.
But are we using the word "born that way" for the lack of knowledge on knowing their upbringing from an early onset of age? If, like Lou says, we learn the majority of our communication by the age of 3, what's to say in those first 3-4 years that they saw nothing but violence and bullying within their home life? So they actually weren't born within their DNA structure. They were actually taught that from the onset of life.
From experience, there's usually one main instigator, right? And then there's a bunch of followers. So in a group of bullies, there is a bully who's probably the guy who's got it tough at home or got the issue. And then there's a bunch of followers, because it's easier to jump into that group than it is to be the odd one out. So
the mentality, that's right.
So then do the people who are followers also have issues inside, or are they just following because we're humans and we follow, right? I think the amount of bullies, you could probably go, oh, I've been bullied by 20 people, right? But I don't think 20 of them are bullies. I think 2 or 3 of them are bullies and the rest are just followers, right?
And the funny thing is like you see bullies and you perceive them to be horrible, nasty, strong people, but in fact, they're actually the complete opposite. They lack self-esteem. You know, they're actually very fragile people.
No, they're horrible and nasty too, because they're doing that to someone they know they're doing it. We all agree we know right from wrong. Let's not justify it.
It generally stems from a very low self-esteem and a upbringing as well. So I don't know. It maybe
I get that, but they're still horrible, and they've chosen to use their escape is to destroy somebody else. That is horrible, and it is nasty, and it shouldn't be justified in any stretch of the imagination. We all know right from wrong. These aren't good people doing this, right? They might turn into good people later on in life when they realise the error of their ways, but these aren't. It's not natural to want to destroy another human being for your own gratification. That's not normal.
That's right.
I don't personally think I agree. First of all, I don't agree that
bullies. You'll agree or I'll bash it.
I don't believe that bullies unnecessarily damage people, Lou. I agree with Cam that if you were bullied by 20 people in your younger days, that probably 2 or 3 were real bullies. The other guys were followers. That I love that line because it is true. But it's always same thing, you know, that they see that young kid being bashed by 2 or 3 guys, and they go, oh, maybe I should do that too. Number one, then I can be part of the big team. And number 2, it works. So really the other 17 are followers. I think that's a very good point. However, I'm not sure that bullies do this to destroy others necessarily. They take advantage of others maybe along the way, but I don't think that they bully to destroy others. Okay, I think, for example, I take an example, Donald Trump. I've read a few books about him, and one of the books from his niece, Mary Trump, really explains it very well. She's a psychologist who talks about his upbringing. And what happened is that when Donald Trump grew up and saw his brother being abused by not abused, but being told off by his father, who couldn't stand weak people, Donald realized that, hold on, if I want to do well, I'm just going to have to show that I'm strong. And so as he started to show strength, his father went, hey, I like this. This kid is good. And so he realized, I'm going to do more and more of that. And from that on, he became what he is today, because over time, he's learned that if it works, let's do some more, let's refine it, let's improve what we're doing. But I don't think that he's going out there to just damage a person. I think that
he's destroying people for his own gain too. But
he's doing it for his own benefit. I don't think that destroying his people is his main objective.
No, but he's doing. My last thing before you spoke, I said destroying people for their own gratification, and swap out gratification for their own advancement or whatever. It's the same thing. You know what you're doing is going to destroy, and just levels of destruction, right? But you know what you're doing is going to cause harm. We agreed that causing harm to someone was a definition, so let's say cause harm. Doesn't matter why you're doing it. If you're doing it for the love of your father, you're still choosing to cause harm to someone.
No, but you're not going out there to cause harm necessarily.
Yeah, and
as a first target.
I agree with what Thomas is saying there, because what I read into was a lot of the time they were starved of love and affection in their formative years, and so they set out to seek that in all sorts of ways as they get older, and it's to try and find love and affection and attention in any way they can. And like we've said numerous times before, if a kid wants your attention, good or bad, they'll do something good or they'll do something bad, because they know either way they're going to get your attention. And that's what a bully is. I don't necessarily think that they all go out there to destroy people's lives. I think they don't understand sometimes what they're doing. All they're thinking about is, how do I feel like I matter in this moment? And that is by elevating myself, by putting you down. And that gets me attention, and that gets me significance, and that gets me feeling love, because the followers around me start to band around me, and suddenly I'm the man, or she's the lady, whatever.
But what are we saying? That's okay.
No, I'm not saying that's okay. I'm not saying all I'm saying, Cam, is I don't think necessarily every bully goes out there to destroy people's lives. I think a bully reacts to their upbringing in certain ways to get love and affection and attention that they perhaps were starved of in their formative years. They're not going, I'm waking up and going, I'm going to go out and destroy people today. They're waking up and possibly, and I'm not saying all, I'm talking generally, some of them perhaps may just think, how do I feel better because I feel so unloved and have no attention? I'll pick on somebody that will get me the support of the crowd, but they're not necessarily picking on that person to destroy them. They know
that to get the support of the crowd, they've got to cause harm to somebody else. So they are going out. They know what they have to do to get the job done. They've got to do what they've got to do to get the job done, and their job is. Their job is
intentionally going out to hurt people. There's no question. They're intentionally going out to hurt people. There's no question. However, the reason behind it, I think they're hiding their own shortcomings. They're hiding their own fears, not wanting to be found out. They're hiding a lot of hurt, pain, majority of the time. There are some out there, like you said, Ken, they just thought for the ego. They want to be the big, the big chief.
Yeah, but the ego is brought about by problems as well, right? That's all interactive. But I'm just trying to clear up the point that they're not going out to purposely harm people. Of course they are, because I know that's how they're going to get there. We can talk about what causes that, but let's get clear on one thing. If we're going to sit here and say they don't intentionally go out to hurt people, they don't wake up in the morning with that first thing in their mind. I guarantee you, mate, I've been thrown off a train at 6:30 in the morning by a group of 4 kids. I'm pretty sure they didn't wake up long before that, and their first thought when they woke up is, we're going to get this prick on the train, right? Maybe they didn't think throw him off it while it was still going, but people do wake up. And the problem with kids is they go to bed thinking about it, and they wake up thinking about it because of all the online shit now. Right? It's much worse. Yeah.
We're going all over the place for the moment. Let's try and stay a few things. So it's interesting what you just said about the 4 kids. Why do you think those 4 kids did what they did to you then?
It was a build-up over months of problems at school with one of them, and he got 3 followers and couldn't take me on one-on-one, so there was 4 of them. Okay,
so it was more retaliation. I don't know.
No, it wasn't a retaliation. It was a boiling point, mate. There's no retaliation when you're one out, when you're alone and you're copping it from everybody. There's nothing to retaliate to. There's only how much he didn't fold yesterday, so how can we make him fold? Tell you what, getting thrown off a train didn't make me fold either, and that didn't stop anything, but it turned then more verbal than physical, because I realised, shit, we actually can't stop him. I was at school the next day. I was battered and bruised, and my mum had to put up with me stumbling across the train tracks and falling down on the road in front of her after just being thrown off a train. But I turned up the next day and I kept going. That's not. But I guarantee you, they went to bed thinking about it. They probably planned it the week before. They knew what train I'd be on and what time, and mate, their whole job is to harm.
Were you the only one they were bullying, Cam?
Sorry.
Were you the only one they were bullying?
Oh, mate, there was other kids. It's a big school, right? So I'm sure there was other kids going through what I was going through. This group of people in particular, they didn't have to go anywhere else because they had their favourite target.
Let's move on. Do you think that bullied people become bullies in turn?
Can do.
All right. So in under what circumstance do they become bullies, and under what circumstance do they refrain from becoming bullies?
There's
In
an
an
old
environment they can get a bit of
cliche.
that significance back. Sorry, Cam. In an environment that they can get themselves get a bit of that significance back, a little bit of that power back, they're going to become a bully. Not all the time, but that's that's the situation that it'd be their turn. Or like Cam said, when the odds are even. So instead of 4-1, let's go 1-1, and that's when the person bullied will sort of turn the tides a little bit too.
There's got to be. There's an old cliche, and I fall into it, but that most people bag bouncers out at nightclubs have just been kids that were bullied at school. I went into bouncing. I didn't go into bouncing because I was picked on at school, but I went into bouncing because I needed money. But it's funny but the people I was surrounded with were very similar type people. So if someone's had power taken away from them their whole life by other people, I guess there's going to be a natural want to try and take some of that power back. And I think it goes to different levels. I think we've got to be very careful with, that's why I wanted to define bullying at the start. Like I don't call banter and joking around and doing all that stuff bullying, because you're not using your power to cause anyone harm. So, you know, I'm one of the worst banterers on the planet. Do I consider myself a bully? Not, I don't at all. But, you know, banter, I also grew up, along with bullying, I grew up with a lot of banter around people who weren't bullying me too, and you can decipher the two. So.
I agree, absolutely agree. Unless your bantering has to have the last word.
Or if your banter is...
No, you can't change the definition, mate. It's to harm, misuse of power to harm.
Your bantering has to be the last word, or if your bantering is about taking significance from somebody else so that they feel less, meaning you're using your power, your position as a leader or manager to make them feel less, then it becomes bullying. So bantering does not necessarily, all right, I love bantering, all right, I do that because I think it's a sign of intelligence, I think, and it's not that I'm intelligent, but I think it's also fun. Right. But when bantering is, let's imagine this. Now we're going to go into the next place, which is the workplace. Let's imagine a guy comes back and he just got a listing and he goes, man, I got a listing. I don't need any more training. And he sits down and he says, Cam, you see, I got a listing this week. And what did you get? And let's imagine that Cam turned around and say, listen, man, when you have that number of listing on the board, you can talk to me. I don't believe that is bantering anymore.
You don't have to say, what if, mate? That happened. It happened 4 years ago. It happened. Right? But that's...
I'm not talking about you. It happens, listen, all over Australia. Don't think it's always about you.
No, I know, but that's...
You have to stop. So it happens in every kind of businesses. I've trained well over 200 businesses in Australia. I can tell you, I see it all the time. Happens all the time. And if it's not that, it's something else. Right? Have a look at my title here. The day that you have that title, you can talk. Until then, just see that happens all the time.
I don't consider that banter. That's where we probably, I don't, careful not to get stuck into semantics, right? But the whole idea of banter is to have the last word, because that means you won. So I disagree with you there. If you and I are going back and forth having a go at each other, I want the last word. Yeah.
Throw something, Cam, throw something. But
yeah, you're such a dickhead.
But
I want the last word. The whole idea of banter TL is the last word, right? Because
it's the last word,
right? But that's not bullying. That's not bullying. That's winning the banter.
No, but when you use your power, so if it goes back and forth, and then you go,
and then you go, well, I'm the boss. Yeah, I get it.
So that's that last line.
But what about this in the workplace?
Let's talk about bullying in the workplace, because somebody just brought it up too.
In the workplace, on bantering, can I just say, on bantering in the workplace, there's going to be some people that just can't take it as well. And you might get to a level where you get there and they go, man, I feel defeated. And then it happens again, I feel defeated. To them, it's going to become bullying.
We're going to go back to the definition, though. It's misusing power to cause harm, and it also stated under that definition.
Again, your definition of power and banter, bullying and banter is going to be different to someone else's. And this is why there's so many soft touches online going, oh, you can't say that, and people can't have an opinion. Mate, I'm with you, right? We have a great banter sometimes, and it's no problem. I've got thick skin, but people don't have the thick skin like us sometimes, right?
Okay, so
no,
what
I get
about
it. Is that on us? Is that on us or is that on them?
Well, we need to have the intelligence to be able to see their reaction, because you know what? When we're doing it in a workplace, people start laughing, and when they laugh, that feeds our banter, and it also feeds our feeling, and that's what a bully does. When everyone else joins in and starts cheering on someone, so you've got to be careful on that.
I think the most important.
Chris, why do you use thick skin when there is bantering? If there is bantering, there's no need for thick skin.
There's no need for thick skin.
But no,
but what about
some people will get offended.
The problem is if we dilute it, that's why I was so heavy on the definition. The problem, one of the biggest problems in the world at the moment, especially industrial relations and all that stuff, is absolutely anything now can be thrown under the bullying banner. Anything. Right? We know this, how fearful we are of employees of opening our mouth at any time, because heaven forbid the joke might go wrong, even though there was no intention, right? And, you know, that the statement I was reading before from the Centre Against Bullying stated that these aren't one-off events. This is repeated, and for it to be bullying, it's got to be repeated and recurring and intentional. But at the moment, we can all get sued for one joke gone wrong, one bit of banter that, as Chris says, banter. Oh, you got too close to the line, all of a sudden you're sued, right?
Yeah.
That's why we've got to be so careful not to dilute it and make sure we know what bullying actually is. That's why it is so important that we stick by our definitions.
And
yes.
Just on that point, exactly what you guys are saying. So we all know sarcasm can come into this as well. And say, for example, we all have a sales meeting every single week without fail. So we've always got that same time, same place. And say there's some person within the group that consistently says, for example, you've got a big nose, or or it's because you wear certain clothes, or it's because you dress like that. If that's a one-off thing and a one-off comment, that's sort of, call it banter. But if that becomes a consistent, every time that person gets a listing, oh, that's because you dress like that, or because you look like that, or because that is bullying. Because it might be okay for the first 2 or 3 times, but if somebody has to be subject to that same response every time they walk in the door for 3 months, that person, the rest of the crowd probably doesn't see it, but that person is diminishing in confidence every single time that's said. And that's I think, what we've got to be careful.
I don't disagree with you, Lou, but the problem is it doesn't take 3 months. We can get sued for the first one.
No, but
of course.
Listen, we're talking about employers. I'm talking about workplace, and workplace also has colleague versus colleagues. I personally do not believe that any kind of law will ever stop bullying in the workplace. Whatever happens in the school ground is a natural, it's not a natural, but it's how animals out there do. It's the fittest versus the weakest.
Survival of the fittest, isn't it?
It's the same thing in the workplace. And I think that no amount of law is going to ever stop bullying in the workplace. The workplace is riddled with bullying. It happens all the time. If you sat there and you open your eyes and watch, the amount of bullying that's just happening on the consistent basis is just rampant. So don't even think. Your point is only about what the leader does. And leaders, well, you know, they've learned, right? When you open your mouth once and you get $5,000 a penalty, well, you learn very quickly. But seriously, the amount of bullying that happens between colleagues is huge.
Absolutely. And they also say within workplaces, managers will bully their subordinates to take the attention off their incompetence as well. And I think that's a very real thing. And I know we've probably all experienced it at some point in our careers. you know,
So
that's
what about in a relationship now? Husband, wife, or children? So husband, wife, children is how do you see bullying? How
I'd
does
say
that
something, but I don't want to get victimized by the boss when she gets home. So, look
Help! Help me! Send help! Look, we're laughing.
A big stick going like this.
We're laughing, but we're at risk of offending a lot of people because it's a very real thing. You know, when bullying turns into domestic violence, we can talk about brothers and sisters. I bullied my younger brother a lot. You know, Thomas, where you talk about bullies turning into bullies, I took all my bullying from school out on my younger brother. He cops what I was copying at school from me at home. So there's sibling bullying, but within a relationship, within a marriage, the bullying that can go on, and it can be physical, it can be verbal, it can be psychological, it can be all of the above.
Yes.
And that's a very, very serious topic. And obviously at the extreme end, we know if things are going on, that's clear. But what are the more subtle forms that you may not think of every day that keep people?
I think,
do we bully for? Hey,
pardon?
Controlling bank accounts. When one controls a bank account and doesn't allow the other to buy what they want, or allow equal share within that, I think that's a very strong form of bullying, and I've seen it happen quite a few times with different people. And both sides. It isn't the girls doing the guys or vice versa. It's both sides of the coin. And funnily enough, looking back from where they're from, they're often from those families. They're from families that sort of had that sort of structure within their upbringing as well. So that's one form of bullying I see. The other one is when I find is when a friend group is more popular than sort of his friend group is more popular than her friend group. Spend time with my friend group because I don't like your friend group, and they push their time, so the control of each other's time.
But just on that one, Chris, what about intentional exclusion, where one partner says, "Oh, I'm going out with these people tonight, but sorry, you're not coming, or you're not invited." I think that's a big one as well, because that happens a lot, I believe.
How can it be bullying?
Never happened to me. I'm always invited.
Because it's controlling. Because it's controlling.
So is controlling a partner bullying?
Well, bullying, I mean, bullying comes in all shapes and sizes. Bullying is not necessarily getting punched in the face. It's intimidation, it's threats, it's insults, it's exclusion, it's spreading rumors and lies.
But if I'm going out with the boys, Crystal's not invited. That's not bullying. I'm going out with the boys, and if she's going out,
she doesn't want to go.
No, I know.
On the one-off camp, you're in a relationship, and suddenly that becomes an every weekend thing. You can't say that that's not.
So let me ask you. So if you're in a relationship and your girlfriend says you've got three tickets or 3 weekends, if you use them in a quarter, in every 3 months, you've got a right to 3 of those weekends. Every single time you use that, then it's like a pass. You can go with your friends, but once you run out, that's it. You're no longer allowed to go out with your friends. Is that bullying?
Was it agreed on by negotiation or by consensus, or
well, I don't know.
The fact that the definition was misuse of power to cause harm. So are you imposing that rule, or was it a rule agreed upon? If it's a rule agreed upon,
it's in the relationship is quite blurred lines, right? So one of the party might not want to lose a relationship, and then therefore is in a position of weakness when it comes to that negotiation, and would surrender or say yes more easily. So let's take that into account in the relationship.
It's an abuse of power then. No, it's bullying.
Exactly.
What about with?
Sorry, Ken.
So we agree that that's bullying. Yes. Thanks for apologising. You just as well you apologise, Lou. Otherwise, there would have been trouble later.
It's a podcast, so I didn't want to.
Using my power. What about when it comes to relationships and careers? I'm going to work. You will stay at home and look after the kids, or yes, go to work, honey, but if you're not home by 5 o'clock each day, I'm going to make your life hell until you quit. Are we bullied?
or I don't want you in
It
that
is
job. I
bullying.
think you
I think it's
this
bullying.
job.
It's bullying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What
Yes,
about
go
what
for
about
it. Make us money. Do it. Provide for your kids, but only on my terms. And if you're a minute late or you whatever, we
will be held
Yeah,
to pay?
absolutely.
What about the mum and dads that run up and down the sidelines and yell at their kids, "You idiot, you dropped the ball. That was stupid. Why'd you do that?" Is that bullying? Because
no,
you see a
that's
lot of
not
that.
bullying because there's nothing more frustrating than spending a whole day teaching your kid how to pass and then he goes out onto the field and doesn't pass right. That's not bullying. They're getting, yeah, he should know better.
Yeah,
No, I agree with Cam. Did he drop the ball?
Yeah. Did he drop the ball?
He did. Therefore, the parents only stating the what is happening in reality. That's not bullying.
yeah, but what about when the parents running up and down the sideline saying, "You idiot, what'd you do?"
I
You
think that's a caring parent. He's running up and down with you.
No,
Hey.
Lou, that's gone so stupid now that you're not allowed to cheer at a game now. Central Coast Rugby.
I know.
Central Coast Rugby League, you are not allowed cheer. There's a ground manager that walks around and says, "Please be quiet."
Wow, I just got a very good one here. Guys, in a couple, is silence a form of bullying?
100%.
Silent treatment that a lot of women do to their men.
It's an abuse of power. It's withholding affection, withholding communication.
Hey,
Absolutely.
well, the same thing is withholding sex, bullying. That's
Absolutely. Intimidation. Absolutely.
no. We're talking about relationships. So the silent treatment, or well, you know what? I'm just going to shut up shop for the next month or so to teach you a lesson. Are we bullying? Never happened to me again because the big dog, you know. But,
Yeah, I'm sure your hand's very happy.
Usually in this kind of context, the person who enters first is actually a victim of it. It's cool. I understand. Hey, so here's another thing. So how do we fix a bully at home? Because our kids could be a bully going to school and all these things. So how do we fix it?
Communication.
You know what the silly thing is, and I've probably only just come to this realization. I've told my kids if I ever catch them bullying, there's going to be trouble. So I've bullied them into not bullying.
It's a good realization.
You go, if I catch you bullying anyone else, I'll show you what it's like. That's probably not the best solution, but that's like, there's nothing worse. I remember when my eldest son had his first day of school, I cried, and I wasn't crying in the motherly sense. Oh, my kid's grown up so much. I cried because I was just so worried that he was going to have the same school experience that I had, and I bawled my eyes out. And if I've ever caught the kids giving another kid a hard time, I have reacted very, very poorly, very poorly. It's a trigger for me, right? Another human picking on a weaker human is just can't happen around me. There's going to be dramas, and I've got to learn to come up with a better way of dealing with it. But how do you do it with your kids?
I think, well, do you think about like at school, like when I was growing up, a lot of the kids that got picked on, which is very terrible to say, but it was generally because of their
careful.
Perhaps I am being very careful. I'm being honest as well. Disability or race, no.
Well, my oldest son is a ranger, so you're right.
I think I disagree with you. If my kids do anything wrong like this, I threaten them, I punish them. It's called education. So it's not bullying. I mean, this is the thing where a lot of people go through. Like Alexander, when he was 8 or 9, came home once and said, "Oh, today they told us that parents shouldn't hit their kids." I said, "Listen, mate, start packing up. You're leaving. Find yourself another family because that shit's not gonna happen here, right?" So and he tried to explain to me, I'm sorry, you call it bullying? I'm a parent. There's certain things I need to be doing. And it means, if it means you're not listening to kind words, then you might have to listen to harsher words. If you're not listening to harsher words, it's whatever it takes. I've been beaten many times. I didn't turn out bad. It's called education. It's called education.
Look, I think there's a difference between.
I agree, but the irony of it's funny,
It is. It is. You're right.
Stop yelling! Do that. Yell at your kids.
There's a difference between discipline and the continual abuse of power. When a parent is violent due to alcoholism or just having a bad day, there's a difference between that and, you know, level-headed discipline. There's a huge difference. And there's a huge difference within a relationship. In a relationship, it is a huge difference of someone withholding a love from someone or finances or whatever, and just having a solid disagreement on how to do something because your mother-in-law is stupid or something, whatever it may be. That's not me, darling. That's not me. But whatever it may be, there is a huge difference. But if it's the continual, I think if it's that continual cycle that you see that people fall in, and then there has to be something done. But you asked before, what can people do when they fall, like the victim? What can the victim do within that sort of cycle? And I want to go back
to the first question Thomas asked, which is, what do you do if you find out your kid's a bully? The cliche from TV that we get is there's always the bully, and then I'm going to stand up to the bully, and there's a father, and then the bully's father comes out, and the bully's father's just a bigger, tougher, stronger bully. But in my experience, not the case. It's not, you know, most of the guys who were giving me a hard time, I knew their parents, and they weren't. That wasn't that cliche. So what do? You find out your kid's the problem. How do you deal with it?
All right. I haven't got any of mine being bullies, but if that happened to me,
your twins give me the hard, mate. They won't leave me alone.
Hey, that's discipline, Ken. That's discipline.
Bullying is when you have power. They have no power over you. All right.
I said to him yesterday, I go, this guy, it's bullying me, man.
So no, I probably will talk to them. Number one, it doesn't work. They will just get a caning from me. Number three, I will just call a mate, which I have done once about something else. I will call a mate who's a cop and ask him for visitation of jail cell and take the kid with me just to show. I think that's called education. You have to do whatever it takes to get rid of the bad habit. You know, if nice doesn't work, then you have to escalate it. This is how it works in life. In any other shape or form, everything is about like this. And Russia is the same thing. But, you know, we look at the war in Russia now in Ukraine. People don't realize it's been going on for the last 15 years. You know, it's been escalating. And so as a parent, if you have a child who's a bully, truly you have to sit there and go, is this kid going to have a good life? Because life is about being social. And if you're bullied, it's most likely it's going to be a very bad experience for you in your adulthood if you don't end up in jail first. Well, you have to just cane it, get rid of it, cancel it. And that behavior must be gone. And this is why when society comes along and say, you can't touch your kids, serious? Mate, these guys, they either have no kids or they're stuffed in their brain anyway, because parents should educate their children.
Absolutely. And just on society.
Now, can we just go to that next subject now? What happens if your child happened to be the bullied?
Yeah, the victim.
The victim, yeah.
The one getting bullied?
Yeah.
So from my, I'm sorry, I keep bringing up my experience, but my only option was to fight back, right, as a kid, because my parents were oblivious. They thought everything was hunky-dory, had no idea what was going on. So I had to learn how to first physically fight and then verbally fight, because once I started beating the crap out of the bullies, it turned to verbal, not physical. Right?
Can I just ask you a question, Ken? Did you ever have your parents telling you, just give them a good whipping? Just retaliate and kick the crap out of the leader and you'll be fine.
No, so as I said, for most of it, they were oblivious to what was actually going on. I weren't so oblivious when I got thrown off the train. You know, Dad, in his own way, had a couple of quiet words, which was just put one on their chin, son, and you'll see how tough they are. But there was too much other stuff going on for that to be a real lesson. But one I picked up on myself, I just had to start punching people back. I just had to, I didn't see any other option. But now, you teach your kid to do that. I was actually been sent home more than once for sticking up, what I call sticking up for himself. The schools have got no idea. Most parents, to be honest, have no idea. So what do you do?
What about just on that, Cam? I just have to ask you, because I just been sent a message, which I think is probably you're perfect for answering it. It says most kids that are being pulled up at bullying at school, their parents generally stick up for them. You know, did you experience that? Like did you ever report the kids and the school came down on them, and then, you know, the parents come in and they generally stick up for their kids as opposed to saying they are wrong?
There's levels. No, so there's a couple of things. There's a couple of lessons I taught. So I was taught mostly by my mother early on, always dob. If someone does something wrong to you, dob on them, because the teachers will sort it out. Well, what I can tell you from experience is dobbing will get you more beatings than
Yep.
Right. So that was a lesson. That was a lesson hard learned, right? And now, right or wrong, I've told my kids, you never dob, you don't. If they're doing the wrong thing, let them do the wrong thing. You're done with it, mate. I don't know. But and then the other thing was, I didn't probably realise I had a problem until my mother went to the school I was at and said, "Oh, I'm a bit worried about Cam. He doesn't have any friends." And the answer was to send me off to a child psychologist because I didn't have any friends because there was something wrong with me, which then made me aware of the fact, oh shit, I don't have any friends, there must be something wrong with me. And it all sort of just snowballed from there. So there was no, in fact, so in answer to your question, it wasn't parent going to the school to stick up for. It probably started as parent going to the school to stick up for, but then the teachers going, oh, Cam's a problem, not the kids that are kicking the crap out of him. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's easy to deal with. It's easier to deal with the kid who's a victim saying he's got something wrong with him and he's socially awkward. And I've experienced it with one of my kids now. The answer is never the bloke that's flogging the shit out of them. It's them for being, you know, a bit full on.
Yeah.
So
I remember back at school several times where you'd have your typical bullies, you knew who they were, and you'd see the parents come into the office because they've obviously been called in because some other parents complain. And you would see the behavior of a bully right there where my kid doesn't do that and blah, blah, blah. You know, I know exactly what that.
My kids never had to front the board. Yeah. My bullies never had to front the board because it was always me that was the problem, apparently. Right. So there was never. And I have a huge problem now with respect and injustice. I mean, TL can tell you that. And there's probably a lot of it in that. I'm the one getting the shit kicked out of me. I'm the one down and dusted here, and these pricks keep getting away with it. And then on top of that, I'm the one told that I'm to blame for it. And that has carried on to this day. I still have that issue in me. And that, you know, the more we talk about it, the more I understand where it come from. So they never had to defend the kids. Mate, the kids that threw me off the train, we got called into the office and was said, oh, you spoke to one of their girlfriends, so maybe you shouldn't talk to one of their girlfriends. That was what actually happened, right?
Seriously, listen, this is a podcast, so people may not know your size. I know your size. That kid must be a big mother.
Oh, it wasn't. There's four of them. What is it?
Yes, because
yeah, where's the perspective in that? Okay. Yeah,
listen, guys. So I'm just still asking. Your kid is a victim. How do you handle?
You know,
you can't keep your eyes closed, right? You can't avoid the situation.
No, you can't.
You can't. Now, in a completely superficial sense, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great because it doesn't leave marks. Right? Honestly. Your kid can go to school and punch someone who's the worst person in the world, or he can go to school and put him in armbar, say, if you touch me again, you're dead. And he can run to the teacher and go, kid, miss the armbar. He's never going to be able to prove it. Never. Doesn't leave.
I may have to mute the podcast for next minute. Okay.
I think it is serious though, because you look at no
one else is going to look after you. You've got to teach them how to look after themselves. You can't.
That's right. But you look at the young, what her name was, Dolly. I can only remember Dolly for now, but that was her name, the 14-year-old girl who committed suicide. You know, it's horrendous. I read a story of an 8-year-old who hung himself, you know, 8 years old, you know, and I think that how do we going back to Thomas's question, like when our kid is the victim, I think we've got to look for the signs and be completely aware. And, you know, they say a lot of the times the kids start to not want to go to school and they want to, you know, seclude themselves, and they don't want to get involved with, they don't want to go to parties, like kids' parties, and they don't want to play sports, and they isolate themselves.
What do you do, Luke? Knowing it's happening is one thing. Doing
I'll
something.
start. I think that it is.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying.
I think parents should really have a great line of communication with the kids. That's number one. Because I think that allows the kid to say, this is what happened to me, or this is what they did to me. Quite often, parents, because they push a kid into school, they think now that's it. And sometimes if you put them into a private school, you go, that's it even more. I paid money, you guys look after it, right? So I think that schooling or not schooling, and this is what I love about one of the principals who said, you know, we're not here to be in partnership with your children. We're here in a three-way partnership. So you play a big role. And I think that we need to keep a very, very healthy line of connection with our young kids. So I think that that's probably the number one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
But there's still, what do you tell them, Teal? So they can't, you've got a great line of communication. They come to you and say,
no, that's that's the first thing, Cam. All right. Anyway, anybody's got another tip?
So what you say, Don Cam, I've actually had to go through this with one of mine, and I said to them, the first thing was, I said, bullies feed off your fear. First and foremost, it's all well and good to say, turn around and put one on the chin and knock them out. While that is a solution, first and foremost, the communication, and you have to have it with your kids and say, firstly, just ignore them, walk away, mate, because they're going to feed off that, your reaction. And we said it right at the beginning. All bullies feed off the reaction that you give them, that attention that you're giving them. So, mate, just ignore them. Just walk away, walk towards a teacher.
Yep.
And this was in primary school. You know, you got yourself out, and then the communication was, and it was legit that this young gentleman that was the bully had both of his parents unfortunately had passed away in a car accident and so forth. So he had a very, very bad upbringing. So it was a very unfortunate circumstance, but it continued. So what do you do next? All right, now you need to show that you're not scared.
Walk away is not an answer, mate. And it's not confronting straight up. Obviously, take yourself out of the situation, but walk away. They pick on the weak, yeah?
Yeah, but you walk away and you don't. And the second one is, now you stand up. Say, guys, leave me alone. If you want to keep going, we go, but leave me alone. And stand up for yourself and push back. But don't walk back. Don't show weakness. Walk forward. Don't show weakness, but don't lift your hands. There's a hands-off school. Don't lift your hands. Walk forward.
I think my number two advice is the way you live. You know, it's monkey see, monkey do thing. The way you live. If you do something wrong and you apologize, your kids can see, hey, dad's apologizing to a friend because he's done them wrong. Or dad is standing up to someone doing something. He lives by a certain set of values. They see it. Monkey see, monkey do. And I think that is my second advice is a lot of parents don't do that. They may be the victim of a former bullies, but when their child tell them they've been bullies, go, man, just knock the crap out of him, then you'll be fine. And it's the kids not monkey see, monkey do, plus communication is a bit wrong. And I think it's very important for parents to show very firm set of values. This is how I live life. And you can see it on the phone. You can see how I deal with friends. I mean, I've had friends come into my place disrespecting my place. And I tell them, you keep on doing this, get out of my house. And I'm very simple. But the kids first, they go, whoa, what is this? I mean, how can dad do this? But afterwards they go, that's how dad lives. This is how I would like to live too. And then they follow suit, right? Now, let's go on to the next bit now, because we might have more advice. What if you're a victim in the workplace?
You need to speak up. You need to take that person aside. You need to take that person aside and speak to them. Person to person, just the two of you, one-on-one, say, mate, that's not appropriate. Don't speak to me that way. Tell them where the line is. Again, this is when I was coming back to the banter that you're saying before about Cam. Make them aware of where you believe that line's been crossed. Say, mate, I won't have it anymore. And make it very, very clear. And then if they still continue, now we've got a big problem.
hold on, Chris.
Yeah,
You're talking. The leader is taking the bully out and talk to him.
No, bully. Whoever's bullied.
Whoever's the
talk to
bully.
person who's
No,
bullied.
whoever's being bullied, the person
The
they're
victim,
being
the
bullied,
victim, the victim.
the victim. The victim needs to say, mate, you've crossed the line.
But hold on. How many victims would do this? When you're bullying your victim, you wouldn't be a victim of a bully if you're capable of doing something like this.
I heard a story.
But I don't know if it's how many would, like Thomas's question. I think what we're trying to answer is what would you do if you're bullying in a workplace? And similar to what Chris is saying, what they actually the research that I read, Chris, in fact, was because bullies tend to, there's one main bully and the rest are followers. And not everybody's a follower, but what I was reading was if somebody does call you out and attacks you and intimidates you or whatever, bullies you in a public forum, then you actually publicly in that moment say, hey, listen, you might have thought that was funny, but you actually really hurt my feelings then. And I won't stand for that. So please don't ever talk to me like that again in that forum, because you not only shut down the bully right there, you shut down any followers that were perhaps thinking of jumping on the wolf pack, you know. So
No,
I think
I've been an auctioneer holding an auction, and I've had people bidding that have been bullies. Like people literally bidding for a property, they've been bullies. And as the auctioneer, I will call them out. And I will put them in their place in front of everyone. So you're spot on what you're saying, Lou. Publicly announcing, guys, I won't tolerate that behaviour here.
Yeah.
Stop.
Because it shows.
We talked last week about confidence first or confidence afterwards. How is someone who's being bullied and had all their confidence completely destroyed, so all of a sudden just going to stand up one day and say, please don't talk to me like that anymore?
Yeah,
how are we going to do that, right? So what you both have just said is very, very easy to say and almost impossible to do for most people who are being really bullied. But the point I want to make is, apart from what you're saying is easier said than done, is make sure you're being really bullied to start with, not just someone's had a crack that's gone wrong or whatever. But how does I heard a story once about there was an organisation who gives lots of awards, but one of the awards they used to give was the Gumby Award, and I can't remember whether it was a weekly award or a monthly award. And,
Monthly.
And
I won it.
Yeah, well, I ended up with one of the staff members that worked there, and she won the Gumby Award 4 months in a row. Right, and the Gumby Award is an award for doing something considered stupid or perceived, not great. How do you reckon the confidence of that person was by the time they got to me? Now the definition is not a one-off incident; it's continual abuse of power to cause harm to somebody else. We're giving someone a Gumby Award 3, 4, 5 months in a row. How are we troubling? And how does that person in an organisation of 80 people stand up and say no when there's going to be 79 others that, and probably not 79 others that actually believe it's right, but 79 others that won't say anything because of fear of the same reprisal, right? So you can't sit there and say, I'll just stand up and say, don't talk to me like that anymore. That's
no, but I think the Gumby Award, Cam, and I can say I've been there, I've won it several times. The Gumby Award was you leave your lunch on your roof as you drive to work, and you get to work, you got no lunch, or you go to you're
the only person, Lou, wins the Gumby Award 3, 4, 5 months in a row. That's a textbook definition.
I probably won it twice or 3 times in a row. Like, it's not the Gumby Award is to bring humor and to
that's what we're talking about.
It's like we have a bloopers reel at the awards night or whatever. Like, we do that every year. We just don't do it every month. It's not a consistent same thing, picking on somebody for the same thing. If every single month person was winning it for doing the same thing month in, month out.
Do you reckon that person felt bullied or not? Do you reckon that person felt bullied or not?
No, and if they did, they probably got
horseshit. Are we allowed to say horseshit on this podcast? What absolute horseshit?
Yeah, because we're allowed to say shit, and horse is not a swear word. So yeah, absolutely.
Same person gets
Lou, I have to disagree with you. That would be bullying.
Same board person gets a trophy for being a Gumby 5 months in a row, and we're not calling that and that person has no right to feel bullied. I'm not going to call it bullying. You reckon that person felt bullied? And what I can tell you is that person came to work for me and had confidence of about, I don't know, 0, was a shell of a human, and was that worried about, and couldn't believe that there was actually, she stuffed something up, and I didn't have a go at her and she didn't win an award for it. What do you mean? Timid, scared, shaking. How is that person? Don't discount it. I don't like you discounting this, right? Because it happens.
I'm not discounting it. I'm not discounting.
If they won it 5 months in a row, then they deserved it. You just said if they won it 5 months in a row,
I never said they deserved it. You don't put words in my mouth, Cam. Don't put words in my mouth.
You're turning into different that much.
No, what was that person winning the award for? What was the person winning the
Gumby Award? It doesn't matter what they won it for. You give a person an award called the Gumby Award 5 months in a row who's got low self-esteem. What do you think is happening? I don't care if it was forgot your lunch and tripped over and walked.
Yeah, you know what, Cam? You can't say. Look, I totally disagree. If somebody wins it 5 times in a row, you know what? It could have been 5 times that they put the sticker on sideways. Like, so big deal. If someone's going to feel
maybe we shouldn't give it to them this month. That's the definition of a bully. Oh, it's easy. We'll just keep going there. That is
Lou, no. It's not your perception. Lou, the problem is you're going from your perception. You've got to go from their perception, not yours.
I totally understand.
If that person's self-confidence is not as good as everyone else's to start with, and then they're getting it 3, 4, 5 months in a row for doing silly things, and then everyone's going, ha, 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 ha. This is group mentality now, right? It's group mentality to make that person. Let me finish. It's group mentality. Let me finish. It's group mentality to make that person feel less than they actually are, right? If that's continued, that is using power to make that person feel less. It's bullying.
Okay, so what if that person who won it 5 times in a row, and I'm not saying that they did, but what I'm saying is, let's imagine that person realize that every time they won the award, the attention that they got. What if that person set out to do silly things purposely to make sure that they won that award 5 times? Because 80 people sat there and went,
they're not being bullied. That's a different story. But this is someone whose self-esteem was affected.
Crush.
But was it okay? But so there's this person who was a shell of a person.
Let's move on from the Gumby Award. Let's move on. I think we're circling on this. We're circling on this. What I ask, and we come back to in the workplace, right? So we said, publicly announce or challenge the person who's bullying you or so forth. What if it's a leader? What if it's the owner of the business? Mm-hmm. And because now there's a huge problem because the culture is affected, right? So the culture is going to be a big issue.
We actually haven't given an answer for the first one, which was what if it's just in the workplace? Because you guys just said speak up for yourself, and I've just given you an example where it can't. So we've skipped to leader already because it's too hard.
We'll go back then, right?
We've put that in a too hard basket.
So we'll go back.
Like if someone, honestly, and no, this might not be bright, it might be bright, we're all employers, right? If someone is getting bullied in the workplace and can't speak up for themselves and can't do whatever, fortunately for them, and sometimes unfortunately for whatever, there's plenty of support and industrial relation laws that cover that kind of stuff. There is. Now, should that be the first port of call? I don't believe so, but I don't know what is.
I think, look, I think the leaders, it comes back to the leader. If the leader's not the instigator of the bully, they've got to be the ambassador of their culture. So if they're seeing that person's being affected by that, they've got to step in and make a change. Whether that person being bullied has put their hand up or not, they've got to step in and make that change and ask the team, the group, the instigator, whatever it may be, or maybe even pull that person aside and say, listen, I've noticed there's a bit of an issue. Are you okay? And so forth. So they are the governor of that culture. So the first step would be for the leaders to step in.
But your bully's the bully's the guy who's bringing you $700,000 a year, and none of the rest of the staff are. Then what do you do? And you know what? You know why none of the other staff are is because the guy who's bringing in $700,000 a year won't let the other guys get a win. Now what do you do as a leader?
1,500-pound gorilla.
Now what do you do as a leader?
You know what? You've got to have the balls. You've got to have the balls. And I've seen people that have had the balls to stand up and
$700,000
face
balls.
those. Hey,
$700,000 balls.
mate.
It's a very difficult thing that you're talking about. Some leaders will stand by their values, and other leaders will stand by their wallet. So depending on the strength of the leader, you will see some leaders standing up and some other leaders turning the blind eye and still look after the 400-pound gorilla. That's reality of life. But I think that to answer the question about the Gumby, I agree with Louise that it is something to install a little bit of humor and fun. But I agree with Cam that, maybe sometimes as a leader, you have to see 5 times in a row maybe was not something you do, because that will destroy anyone's mindset. So to really answer the question, in an organization, the leader must be the person who, just like a parent. I mean, whenever I have dinner with my kids and I promised the twins myself, when the twins were born, that I will spend every night at home if I can. If I can, meaning if I'm not overseas or interstate. But every night, one question I always ask is, how are you guys going? Because it's not by asking once that you get it going, but by asking constantly that they feel, hey, it's okay to talk. The same thing with my staff. If I have staff members, there are times when I will have a lunch with a staff, a lunch with 2 staff, and I will always ask, how is it going? And that gives me an opportunity to feel the temperature. And if I can sense it, now I can deal with it. And I'm very much ruthless if it's value. I would rather make $0, but be cool, than make a lot of money and try to look after 400-pound gorillas. I don't do that kind of business. Yeah. And so that now depends on the value, the set of values of the leader. But the problem is this. Here's the problem with leaders. An owner of a business, the business start going well, they start buying things, they start doing stuff, they start getting a lot of things around them. And so suddenly they get to a level where they become a prisoner of the 400-pound gorillas. I mean, a $1 million guy or $700,000 guy, he leaves. What am I going to do? I mean, that's going to make it harder for the business. And so it comes down to what I said earlier: is, are you looking after your value? Are you looking after your wallet? That will tell you what that leader is going to do. But you guys still have not answered me. I am a victim of bullying at work. What do I do? Or is there something that I can do?
My answer is,
I would have to say you have to be able to go to your leader. And if you didn't get a response from your leader, then you have to look elsewhere. And you know what? Unfortunately, resigning and moving on may be the issue. And that's where, if that 400-pound gorilla is the instigator, is the bully, well, the leader's going to have a long time learning his lesson, I think.
Much like your kids, Thomas is saying, we're going to have a good line of communication. If you're in a position where you feel like you can't talk to your leader, then that might be a sign of a bigger issue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think calling somebody out in a public forum is probably, I think, would be a good way and to sort of, put it out, so to speak. Going back to what you said, Chris, one-on-one, I suppose if you are somebody that is getting bullied at work, I think the responsible thing would be to let the person know, because sometimes people say things like, for example, a guy might say to a girl, oh, you've obviously stopped going to the gym because, you look different, or something. Like, that's just a random example. But if that becomes a consistent thing, and that girl starts to confidence starts to fade and things like that, and she might be going through a million things that he may never know. If she sort of said to him, hey, listen, that actually doesn't help me at all. That actually starts my day on a really bad foot. That's not helpful. Can you please not do that? But if that person then consistently still does that, that's when you probably need to do it in more of a public forum where, hey, if it is said.
That's, what
people
Cam
like us
said before,
here.
and this is where, I'm going to say, for the rare occasion, I agree with Cam on the fact that the four of us to stand up in front of a group of people and say, shut the hell up, what you're saying is crap, don't speak to me in that fashion, is very different to someone who lacks self-esteem to start with. Very hard.
The people who have the balls, Lou, the people who have the strength to do what you're talking about doing
don't get bullied.
aren't the people getting bullied.
Yeah,
right?
and you know what? I didn't realise until Cam said it. Yeah.
Right? We're not sitting here talking about us. Yes,
No, I know.
About me at school, but I'm also the bloke who wouldn't get up and speak in English at public speaking because I was that scared of what was going to happen. Now look at me, right? So us four would won't cop crap from people. People who are bullied because they're perceived weak. They have a character, something in their character is telling people I'm weak, pick on me. Doesn't mean it's right, right? Doesn't mean it's right. For anyone who's listening who's being picked on, I'm not saying you're weak. Someone is smelling something because we're animals. We smell weakness, we go, right? So we can't talk as if it's us, Lou, because we know who will stand up. I know, I get told every day how good I look.
So what advice would you give them then, Cam?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. What do you do? What does somebody who is getting bullied at work do then? Like what else can they?
Some of them will be watching this or watching this later. Some of them actually going to replay it.
All right, can I jump in?
I think if it's at work, talk to your leader if you can. If you can't, start asking why you can't. And that might be harsh, but true. And if you can't get out of the situation at work, leave. Because it's not worth what's coming next. It's not worth having your life destroyed. And I'm talking about life destroyed, like I'm not over exaggerating that. It's not worth your life being destroyed. If you can't deal with the situation there through no fault of your own, get the hell out before it, because you know what, you are good enough. And that's something the next person might know.
Nice. What about you, Chris? What would you tell them?
Have the courage, and unfortunately, the courage doesn't come easy. I mean, I went to high school from a primary school. I'm going back many, many years, obviously, and I went to a high school that I had no friends in, and I was actually bullied for quite a few weeks. And unfortunately, I had the old European dad who said, you solve things with your fists. So I did, and I got significance out of that. But that's not a solution. It's not. But what was solution was having the courage to do something. And like Cam said, whatever your courage may be, whether it's speaking to the person one-on-one, speaking to your leader, or leaving altogether, have the courage to do something. You do not deserve to stay in that cycle of crap. You need to do something and have the courage to do something, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's at school, whether it's in a family. Just have the courage. There are people there that will help you. Just Google bullying and the amount of helplines that are there. Kids Helpline, Lifeline, Headspace. There are so many there that will just give you advice, happy to talk and give you support.
But you, Lou?
Yeah, I think exactly that. I think it's hard. I think it's probably a little bit harder for women, to be honest, because, well, actually, you know what? When I say that, perhaps it's a little
bloody argument.
Not bringing a new argument. Let me finish, for
God's
sake.
It's not easier for women because it's easier for women to speak than it is for a man. Imagine being a man in this world and going on being bullied. Well, this world you're better off. But back in Chris's days, with us still writing on stone tablets, imagine being a man and having to speak about being bullied. Don't give women a got easier crap.
Anyways, what I was saying is take a minute to think about how men are raised in our culture today. And so you're a young boy, you're raised up, you start playing football or whatever the case might be, and you fall over, you hurt yourself. What does generally dad say? Get up, you'll be right. Don't carry on like a girl. You're a boy, you're a man, So men are raised up with this idea that they're not allowed to, they're not allowed to show emotions. They just get on with it and man up, whereas women are a little bit opposite. And actually they did a study over 7,500 people, and the 66% of the people that were studied admitted to bullying, and they were men. So 66% of males admitted to bullying at some time in their
Yeah,
life.
were they bullying
And I
women or
think-
were they bullying each other?
Men-
You just said it's harder for women. Justify it.
It's
what I
what's-
said,
it's what's happening right now on this podcast, bullying.
oh, possibly, depends who you are. But look, the thing, what I
bully
said,
Lou
Cam,
because I disagree with you.
just listen to me.
I'm
What I
asking
said
you
is-
to bully because I disagree with you.
Let me talk, and I'll answer your question at the end. Now I sound like a bloody school teacher, but just let me talk. What I said at the beginning, Cam, is I said it's actually hard for women. But then I thought about it and I said, actually, no, it perhaps might be harder for men because women are most likely or more likely to actually say something where men are more likely to resort to violence. And I think what will happen in a workplace, if somebody doesn't stand up, I think men will take it, then they'll erupt, where women are more likely to come to their boss and say, hey, listen, look, I'm feeling attacked, victimized, whatever, where men are probably not as likely to do that. And I suppose if the leader's a male or a female is going to change things as well. But my advice to anybody who's getting bullied in a workplace is exactly what you guys have said. You know, you need to stand up and you need to speak up and you need to, you know, lead by example, because, you know, if someone's bullying you in that workplace, then I can rest assured you're not the only one that's being bullied. If there's a bully in that workplace, there's probably several people that are feeling victimized. So you need to take a stand for yourself and others and say, hey, listen, I'm not going to stand for your crap. I'm not going to put up with it with the bully one-on-one. And if that doesn't work, you go to the leader. And if that doesn't work, then you probably change your jobs because you're in the wrong workplace.
But we only have a few more minutes. But do you feel that if you don't conquer the bullying that happens there and leave the workplace, you're only going to attract new bullying in the new workplace?
Potentially, but that's still not a reason to stay. If you can't, some people won't have the courage. We've thrown courage around a lot. Some people won't be able to do it. To won't be able to. That's why I didn't like being asked the answer, because my answer is very, very simple. If it got too bad, I'm probably getting visited in jail. But people, it's not the majority, mate, and we've got to be careful of putting it on people where we suggest that they have to stay and fight it out no matter what and find a way, because there's avenues to go down, there's avenues you can, but if you can't, as I go back to what I said before, it's not worth your life. Because you know what people who think they can't get out do? What do people who think there's no answer do?
Suicide.
End it.
That's you know,
All right. I think that you guys
I want to give.
I think that you guys just gave very, very good conclusion. Unfortunately, bullying is going to happen forever, especially in the workplace. People who feel threatened, or their spots being threatened, or their income being threatened, or their livelihood being threatened, will resort to a lot of bad things. And that means sometimes along the way, they will be victims. And I think that what Chris said earlier, you have to, even if you don't have the courage to stand up to them, at least go and tell your leader. That's probably the only place where you can start. And like Cam says, there's plenty of bad restaurants. If you don't like that restaurant, go to another one. All right. Thank you very much for tonight, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Talk soon. Bye.
See you guys.
See ya.
Peace out.